Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Khaba. This is a ship that got buffed in the most recent patch. You're going to see that in the form of the heel. It's now a sort of super heel. It is not as good as the Conqueror style of super heel or the British super heels. It's more along the lines of what Montana gets over some of the more standard tier 10 battleships, which is a pretty nice improvement. I really enjoyed Khaba again once the legendary mod, or once I got the legendary mod for this ship, giving us that extra bit of range. It allowed the ship to play a little bit easier in the rather passive tier 10 meta, and this extra bit of healing here is very, very nice. Makes this ship just very comfortable to play. Even with that abysmal rudder shift, it is comically bad, but that's okay. We have the HP now, and of course, we've always had really good armor. So that's where this ship is able to survive a lot of incoming fire. That 50 mil plate is always very useful at dealing with lower caliber HE. So against DDs, if you're showing broadside and they're not swapping to AP, they're going to shatter a ton against you. And these guns are very, very, very strong. So winning a lot of DD engagements isn't too difficult in this ship. Although, of course, you do have to spot them, right? That is a bit of an issue. My team here is kind of chilling on the rocks pretty close to sea, so we're all alone out here, at least as far as others tanking damage for us, maybe those battleships, or helping us spot. So a little bit of a tough position, but in this game I'm going to get up over 2 million potential damage in this ship, which feels really solid. That's a pretty decent battleship game if you're tanking some, but also trying to push up, get close. And we're trying to play rather close here just to deal with this Unicum. Trying to get him out as best as we possibly can. And I notice here that he's possibly stuck bow in, and depending on when he decides to turn, maybe expecting us to turn away, I thought maybe if I pushed in again, I could catch him out. But unfortunately, we don't meet him. It's actually the Kitakami that was permanently spotting us. Yes, our concealment is worse than the Kitakami, which is notoriously good concealment. But with that extra smoke as well, and with us firing at him, increasing our detection out so that the Yodo or the Iowa could spot us, let alone the Unicum wherever he's at, yeah, we're in a bit of trouble. But still managing to deal with this incoming damage pretty well. Our healing goes up to nearly 5,000 HP, right? That's pretty strong heals. Considering we have 4 of them, that's 20k. I didn't mention it at the start yet, but the old Khaba heal used to give us just about 14,000 HP. So that's a pretty nice increase. 6,000 HP is no joke. Of course, it's locked behind your heals, so it's not like it's just permanently tied to your ship. That's one of the reasons that Survivability Expert is just so good on destroyers, is you don't have to wait for these heals or get yourself into positions where you're taking some damage, but not enough to fully outright kill you to get access to that extra healing. That Survivability Expert is just there from the start of the game. It's very valuable for that. So we're taking both. I'll show you guys the build I was running towards the end of this video, but safe to say, Legendary mod, no concealment, full gun build is kind of the idea here. Carrier's even on us, and even though Khaba struggles with its rudder shift, it is so slow. If we're turning and trying to make this drop as hard as we possibly can, there's a chance he misses. So we're getting rather fortunate here, but still up over 1.2 million potential damage here. That's pretty good for a Khaba. And look at that, even some battleships from the middle, more towards the middle of the map, are getting in on us. Knocked engine out again, unfortunate, but we're still not taking that much damage. That's kind of the thing. Unless you are penning 50 millimeters of armor, Khaba's not going to actually take all that much damage from the incoming fire, right? It's just going to shatter a lot of it. And then we can always do this as well. Once we get a little bit low, right, we've used 3 of our heals. So that's nearly 15,000 HP that we've healed back. That's our entire remaining HP bar, by the way. So without the heals, we would certainly be dead already. Although the smokes would certainly be a different playstyle, allowing us to maybe not take as much damage as we already have. But I just prefer the open water gunboat playstyle, because we can always use islands like this to farm when we want to. Something about Khaba that's always been really excellent is the shell arcs. So unlike something like a Marceau, which has much more DPM and still also has the 8 guns, we at least can hit things at range a little easier. And it's not like a Kleber where we sometimes have excellent DPM and sometimes we just have atrocious DPM. This one is just very consistent. Although, getting this ship does require you to get the legendary upgrade, in my opinion. It certainly can be played and played very well without the legendary upgrade, but it's just not very comfortable. I think that's the biggest thing that this legendary upgrade does for this ship, is it gives you that extra gun range that allows you to play in some of the more passive matches. I'm not even playing all that passive here, and just look at how much attention we are getting in this one. We might actually be just playing far too aggressive here. And this Republic is just outside of this cap as well. Imagine if they were playing more towards their spawn, right? It can be very difficult to push in. Trying to dodge the incoming fire here, and I mean, that is some pretty gross dispersion out of a Republic. We're still going to live, though. Last heal means, yeah, it is certainly time to play more passive at this point. I haven't done too much damage in this one, but I really just wanted to show off, at least with this game, the start of this game, just how much incoming fire you can take and still survive with this thing. The extra healing helping out with that, certainly, but just Kaba in general is a rather tanky destroyer. If I didn't have the legendary upgrade, I might be swapping some of my build towards at least maybe one concealment. It's really hard to give up rudder shift on the 5th slot, actually, so I might try and fit concealment into my commander, at least one of them, so that we're not at, I think it's 9.7 kilometers detect when we don't have any concealment, versus somewhere in the 8 kilometer range, right? 8.5 or something, if we were to take at least one stack of concealment. And that would be a little more comfortable when you only have 13.5 kilometers of range, or maybe even less without the legendary bond. It's been so long since I've played it without. If I'm wanting to play a more stealthy DD that has really good gun power, though, and I want to push up and nuke destroyers, probably would play something like a Marceau instead, or even the Kleber with that reload booster. This ship more is tailored towards farming battleships at that mid-range, I think. 2 million potential damage there. Nearly 100k damage. Damage isn't the key here, I don't think, but don't worry, Kaba is very strong at farming ships. I don't think I necessarily need to convince you of that, but the ability to tank and dodge incoming fire, well, not dodge so much as the French ships would, but you can see how a lot of the shells are missing still thanks to our speed. And if you are lucky enough to play that second line DD and have a friendly DD spot for you, or just have a radar catch an enemy destroyer out, yeah, the shell arcs allow us to hit a lot of shells on destroyers, and the really solid HE alpha here is going to do a ton of damage to them. At this point, though, the game is close in terms of teams, like just how many ships are alive, but we're going to have all the caps, so it's really not too much work left. We just want to farm this Iowa as best we can. Going a little bit further away, since I notice he is leading properly. It's not always the case for people with this ship. When shooting at Kabas or any of these really fast gunboat DDs, sometimes they just always underlead. This guy started leading at me pretty well, at least from the start, so I want to play a little further away, giving myself more opportunity to dodge, since we are, of course, out of healing entirely in this one. Kind of lacking on the fire chance a little bit. This ship should light quite a few fires, typically, but hey, RNG happens, right? And there we go. As soon as I'm talking about it in the video, and I think I was probably talking about it while I was streaming this game, we get a fire right away, right? As soon as you complain about something, it just comes to you. So now the Iowa with his one fire. I don't know, does he damage control this actually? I'm trying to remember. Oh, certainly with that one, he would be looking to do it. But 2.5 million potential damage, 44k spotting. You wouldn't normally think of this ship as a good spotting DD, but considering how difficult you are to kill and just flying around the map, just spamming things with HE at these longer ranges, you do a surprising amount of spotting. And jumping forward here, we do want to catch this Iowa if he decides to turn away, which of course he does. So you're gonna have to check out your Kaba if you already have this ship. I do recommend giving it a go with this new buff. I really think that extra the extra HP goes a long way to allowing this ship to play just a little bit more aggressively. There were times where I was decided to use islands to push up to caps really early, and then just try and find the enemy capping DD right away, just by face checking him. Coming around the island at around, let's say 6 kilometers-ish, to where you would typically find the enemy DD, hiding as best we can until we get to that close window, and then just blasting them. There's not a lot they can do to your belt unless they swap to that AP. And then, of course, you're dealing with dispersion and overpens at that point, and sometimes bounces if you're able to get angled in time. Slowly but surely, we have acquired some damage in this one. This, I believe, was my first game in this ship, so forgive some poor play and misaim. But 140k is respectable, I think, especially for the flank we had, where there weren't that many battleships to farm in this one. Don't forget about the AP against these broadside ships as well, especially in Iowa. But a lot of the older battleships that have that upper belt that's so juicy, 38 millimeters here, or dealing with a Yamato upper belt, for example, where you get that 32 mil plating, there's a lot of damage in that. So 151, pretty good damage overall. 2.5 million potential damage, though, is excellent stuff out of a DD. With those French ships, you can do that as well, but you're relying more on that saturation gimmick, not the extra healing and HP, which sometimes can backfire, right? Saturation not affecting battleship overpens, for example. So here we go. Like I said, using islands to push up and try and face check enemy DDs. So tried to do that here, and just look at how much damage this Kitakaze is going to do to us. It is minimal damage. Well, he's kind of missing too, right? Because we're just so fast. But even when he does hit, it is pretty low damage. I would assume there's going to be quite a few shatters there. G-Nan getting in on the party, of course, that makes things a little bit more difficult for us. So we decide to just completely back off. But, I mean, we out-traded that DD, I think, even taking some blind shots here. But he's reversing, and I'm not doing the best job of keeping track of him while trying to dodge the incoming G-Nan fire. But that was a very, very aggressive early play for a Kaba. And it still managed to work out, you know? I think we took quite a bit of damage from the G-Nan. I wasn't exactly expecting him there. Actually, both their cruisers ended up in the north for some reason. When there's only 2 cruisers in the game, you would think, hey, one would spawn south, one would spawn north. I think that's probably what was going through my head. But still, managed to live. And coming back here, we do get the opportunity to farm a Kremlin a little bit. Here is a situation where it's a little bit trickier to get that AP pen damage in, since his upper belt is much better armored. And since I saw him damage control, I am trying to relight a fire here. Kremlin has those fast DCPs, but we still want to try and get those fires in on him while we can. And yeah, we're just not getting lucky enough to do that. So someone else gets the fire, swap over to the AP, and just try and farm him that way. With the enemy team mostly focused on the C cap here, we want to start looking at going back up there, trying to help my guys there, as well as just generally a lot of battleships are deciding to push in here, and that's a great spot for us to be looking to farm those people that are pushing in. If you're having trouble with the extra range or the lack of range on a Kaba, especially if you don't have that legendary upgrade, you should really be looking at your mini-map and trying to find the side of the map that the enemy team is looking to push in on. Because typically, one side will be a bit of a weaker side where they're kiting. On this case, it's a very weak side where their A flank is completely disintegrated, just not even there. I guess they just left initially because we're only 5 minutes into this game. But that's kind of something you should be worrying about if you are playing this gunboat DD and looking for some damage. Always trying to support your friendly DDs too, as that second line DD is always going to be a good thing as well. But here you can see some of our salvos are decent, and then other ones we just get almost 0 damage out of the AP. It's kind of odd into something like a Kremlin. Debating even swapping over to the HE again to try and get some fires, but I figure these salvos are decent enough, assuming I'm able to hit his superstructure, getting a few full pens there as well as the overpens, doing okay enough damage, and he does go down. Very nice. Now, there are a few DDs left on the enemy team, so we do want to try and take those out. And with all this HP and a few heals left in the tank, I am just fine with running at some of these destroyers, trying to catch them off guard. Just look at some of these salvos, man. Over 3k damage per salvo, and we have a pretty decently quick reload after all, too. The shell velocity is excellent, so we don't have any issues hitting most ships at reasonable ranges as well. Vampire 2 has some pretty nice acceleration, and even still, we are able to catch the stern of his ship there for some pretty decent damage. I think that was over 4k into him. Crazy. There's a lot of damage potential in this ship. And it's not just for farming those battleships with fires at longer ranges. You can do some seriously good work against the enemy DDs. Cruisers a little tougher. This game does end in our victory. Does look pretty close on the score. I didn't actually end up doing much other than farming a little bit. Mostly the enemy team decided to go after our carrier in our spawn instead of going after the caps. Then the points just tipped out. So fortunate for us, we managed to pull a win there, even though we were way down on ships. And again, pretty decent damage. But Kaba just feels very comfortable, I think, is the key here. That with that legendary upgrade and the extra health now, just a very comfortable DD to play again. And to be honest with you, that really wasn't the case before. The legendary upgrade did do a lot for this ship, in my opinion, to make it more comfortable. But this extra health, man, is very useful as well. Commander I went with looked like this. So the extra survivability we're getting from Survivability Expert and the healing here is essentially entirely it when it comes to mitigating damage. Sure, Last Stand is kind of a must on a lot of DDs, preventive maintenance, but otherwise we're going after a lot of DPM. I've actually given up main battering AA specialist just to make sure I have the full healing. And you could have a little more DPM then, but in that case you are giving up Superintendent or Survivability Expert. With that said, it's maybe a good idea to just drop Superintendent if you want to. If you found old Kaba easy enough to play, because old Kaba would get around 14k healing from its 4 heals, and this new one gets 15k healing out of 3 heals. So you wouldn't even need Superintendent to get the similar amount of healing as you used to have. Something to think about to gain that extra 5% DPM could be interesting. Of course, no range mod here when it comes to our 6th slot, and that's because Legendary Upgrade is here to give us that extra range back. Kaba, a very old ship in this game, bit of a menace when it first came out, and then it got hit with the nerf hammer multiple times, until I found it to be just not very good. And this Legendary Upgrade helps it a lot. I've said that a couple times now. Legendary Upgrade combined with that heal now, it's very nice to play. Steering gears here in slot 4. Sorry, I misspoke earlier, I think. I think I said slot 5. Slot 4 here. If you don't have Legendary Upgrade, you could certainly go Propulsion mod and then do steering gears in slot 5. And that could be a decent way to run it as well. You do lack the range then, but at least you're more maneuverable. So in that mid-range-ish area, you would be taking less hits overall. Just before we go real quick, just check out that armor, man. 50 mil plating. Sure, it can arm some armor piercing, but a lot of people just spam HE, right? That's kind of the default these days. So that is a lot of shatters coming in. And your deck armor is actually 25, which is pretty good as well. You know, there's not a lot of open room for it, since your superstructure is pretty big as well. But still, a lot of incoming damage gets blocked by that armor, which is really, really nice. So that is the updated Kaba. Nice little look at that with the heal. I like it. So if you have this ship, give it a go. Tell me what you think, because I think this is a pretty nice little buff for this ship. Makes it rather fun to play again. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.